What is going on, everyone? Opie here, and today we're going to be building this weather app using HTML, CSS, JavaScript and OpenWeather API. And let me just jump in and show you guys how it works. We get some weather data here with the city and the country name. We have the date as well and the time and the weather forecasts, so clouds. We've got this icon here and we have the temperature with the minimum and the maximum temperatures here. We also get the real feel as well as the humidity, wind and pressure. And if I click on one of these here, let's say Fahrenheit, you can see that the temperature changes to Fahrenheit. I can also search for a city as well. So if I type say Miami, enter, you can see we get the temperature for Miami. Let me try another country or city, whatever. Tokyo. So yeah, there we go. That's pretty much it. And let's jump in. Alright, so I'm here in the terminal. I'm going to start by creating a HTML file and I'll call it index.html. I'll run exclamation mark and tab to generate the boilerplate. And for the title, I'm just going to say weather app, and I spelled that wrong. Okay, and I'm actually going to create a style sheet as well. We're going to need that as well, so let me go ahead and do that. And in index.html, I'm going to link the style sheet that we just created, and we'll start in the body. I'm going to create a div with a class of container. And inside of this container, I'm going to create a div with a class of weather header. This is where we're going to put the units and the search bar. Inside of this div, I'll create a form with a class of weather _search and an input with a type of text and a placeholder which says search for a city. And I'll give it a class of weather search form. Okay, and then underneath this, I'm going to add the search icon. So I'm going to head over to Font Awesome and sign in. And then I'm going to head over to Kits and copy this script code and paste it just above the closing body tag. And then underneath the input, I'm going to say I'll give a class of FA solid, FA magnifying glass. And let me just open this in live server. Okay, that's what we're working with so far. The next thing I'm going to do is underneath the form, I'm going to create a div and I'll give it a class of weather units. This is where we're going to have the degree Celsius and the green Fahrenheit symbols. I'll create a span with a class of weather unit Celsius. And then inside of here, I'm going to create a HTML entity which will allow us to get the degree symbol. So I'll say ampersand #176 and I'll put C. And if you see here, we have the degree symbol. And I'll copy this and just paste it one more time below. And instead of Celsius, I'll say Fahrenheit. And that's in all caps. Let me correct it. and instead of C, I'll put F. Okay. All right. So below the weather header div, I'm going to create a div, and I'll call it, and I'll give it a class of weather body. This is where we're going to put the main content, so the temperature and stuff like that. Div with a class of weather _ body. And inside of this div, I'm going to create a h1 with a class of weather _ city. And for now, I'm just going to put London, UK. Now, underneath this h1, I'm going to create another div with a class of weather date time, where we're going to put the date and the time. So I'll create a paragraph, and I'm just going to say Monday 14th. This isn't probably right, but Monday 14th of March 2023, whatever, 11:14 a.m. Just a random figure. Okay. And then underneath this weather date time div, I'm going to create another div where we're going to put the weather forecast. So div with a class of weather _ forecast. And I'll create a paragraph and put clear as the value. And then underneath this weather forecast, I'm going to place the weather icon. So I'll create a div with a weather _ icon as a class. And then inside, I'm going to create an image with a source of http openweather.org/image/wn. And for the icon ID, I put 10D at 4 times, which makes it have a higher resolution, so it makes it clearer. And I'll say .png. And it seems to not work. Oh, I didn't close the image tag. What's the issue here? Openweather.org, http openweather, oh, openweather map, openweathermap.org. There we go. Okay, so below this div, I'm going to create a paragraph with a class of weather _ temperature. And I'm going to add this value here, so this HTML entity, and paste it there. And I'm just going to remove that F and just put 18 at the front. So 18 degrees. Okay. And then underneath this paragraph, I'll create another div. Give a class of weather _ min max. Create a paragraph, put min 12 ampersand hash 176. Copy this and paste it below. And for this, I'll put max, and we'll say something like 16, not 16, yeah, 16 degrees, whatever, 16, just to have a placeholder value. Okay, so underneath the weather min-max and underneath the body, we're going to create another div and give it a class of weather info. This is where we're going to have the values for real feel, humidity, wind, and I think pressure. Yep. So div with a class of weather _ info. And I'll create another div with a class of weather card. Okay. And then inside of this card, I'm gonna add an I tag with a class of FA solid, FA temperature full. And underneath this, I'm going to create a div. And inside of this div, I'll add a paragraph, put the value real fill, and then underneath that, I'll add another paragraph. So Shift Alt down arrow to do that. And I'm just gonna put 18 ampersand hash 176, and I'll give this paragraph a class of weather _ real fill. Okay, great. Seems like we have an issue with the icon temperature. Oh, dash full. There we go. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna copy this, Shift Alt down arrow 3 more times, and instead of temperature full, I'll say FA dash droplet. So FA dash droplet. And instead of temperature full here, FA dash wind, and FA dash gauge, spell that wrong, gauge dash high. Okay, there we go. We have all these symbols. Let's replace the values here. So instead of real fill, I'll have humidity. Here, wind. And here, pressure. Okay. And let's change the class names as well. So real fill, humidity should be here. Wind should be here. And pressure here. All right, so that is it for the HTML. Let's go over to our style sheet and start styling. I'm gonna import pop-ins, but you can use any font that you want. So let me go to import, copy this, and just paste that in here. I'm gonna do a quick CSS reset. So margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. And for this project, we'll give everything a font family of pop-ins with sans serif as a fallback font. There we go. Okay. So next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and style the container. So container background will be 171717. Color white, padding 2 rem all around, and we'll give it a width of 40%. Margin on the top and bottom will be 4 rem, auto on the left and right, and we'll give it a border radius of 10 pixels. All right, next thing we're going to style is the header. So weather _ header, give it a display of flex, justify content space between, and we'll align the items to the center. Next, we're going to style the input here. Input, remove the border none. Background will be 1E, 1E, 1E. And remove the outline as well. So outline, none. Color of FFF. Padding 0.5 rem on the top and bottom, 2.5 rem on the left and right, and we'll give it a border radius of 5 pixels. Yeah, 5 pixels. Next, let's style the placeholder. So this value right here that says search for a city. Input, placeholder. Just gonna give it a color of FFF. We're gonna start weather search next. So weather _search. We'll give it a position of relative. And we'll style the icon next. So weather _search I. So the icon underneath the weather search div. We're going to make it position absolute, which will make it relative to the weather search div. Left 10 pixels. Top 10 pixels. And a font size of 15 pixels with the color FFF. Let's go ahead and style the units. So weather _units. We'll give it a font size of 1.5 rem. Then we'll style the span elements inside of the weather units div. We're just going to give them a cursor of pointer so that when we hover we get this icon. Next, I'm just going to style the first span element. So weather _unit span first child. It's just 1 colon first child. Margin right of 0.5 rem. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is style the weather body. So weather _body. We're just going to align the text to the center. Margin top of 3 rem. Okay, that should be good. And next we'll style the weather date time. So this value here, we'll give it a margin bottom of 2 rem, and we'll make it a little bit smaller as well. So we give it a font size of 14 pixels. Okay, that's good. Next we'll style the weather forecast. So this value here, weather _forecast. We're gonna give it a background of that grayish color, 1E, 1E, 1E. Display of inline block, a padding 0.5 rem on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. And we'll add border radius of 30 pixels. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is style the image. It's way too big. So I'll say weather double underscore icon image. We'll give it a width of 100 pixels. There we go. Now let's go ahead and sort out the temperature. So weather double underscore temperature. We'll give it a font size of 1.75 rem. So make it a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and start styling the cards. So weather double underscore info. We want to display. We want it to have a display of grid. So we're going to use CSS grid, a grid template columns, repeat to 1FR. So it will be 2 columns and they'll each take up an equal amount of space, as you can see. And we'll add some space in between each grid. So we'll give it a grid gap of 1 rem. And we'll add some margin to the top of 3 rem. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is style the minimum maximum values, which I should have done before doing the info, but it's okay. So weather min max. I'm going to give it display of flex and justify content center. And we'll style each paragraph inside of this div. Font size will be 14 pixels. Make it smaller. And then we'll add some margin of 0.5 rem all around. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is style each card. So below weather info, which is the container of each card. So weather double underscore card. We're going to say display of flex. And we're going to align the items to the center. Background will again be that grayish color. So 1E, 1E, 1E. And we'll add padding of 1 rem and a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay. Next, we're going to style the icons inside of each card. So weather double underscore card I. Give it a font size of 1.5 rem. And margin right of 1 rem. Okay. So we're going to style the paragraph next. So it's a bit too big. Weather double underscore card paragraph. Give a font size of 14 pixels. All right, so let's go ahead and make this app responsive on all screen widths. So I'll create some media queries down here. Media max width of say 936 pixels. Should be good. We'll style the container and we'll give it a width of 90%. Okay, great. Next, we're going to style the weather header and we'll give it a flex direction of column. We'll style weather units and add some margin to the top. Okay, great. Next thing we're gonna do is sort this out in mobile view. So at media, max width of 400 pixels. Style the weather info, and we'll add it onto a single column. So grid template columns none. And let me just resize that. Checking the console. Should be good. I think that is okay. Okay. So I think that is it for the CSS. Let's go ahead and start displaying the data using OpenWeather API. So I'm going to create a file called app.js. And in index.html, we need to link the file we just created. So script source app.js. And let's head over back to app.js. I'm going to create a function called getWeather, which is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to get the weather. But to begin with, I'm just going to console.log testing just to see if everything works fine. And we'll run the function when the document loads. So document the body that add event listener load. We're going to run get weather. And if I check in the console, reload the page, testing. Okay, great. All right, so what I need to do is head over to OpenWeather API so we can get the URL and start making our request. So I'll head over there. I've already signed in. So I'll go to my account and I'll get the API key to begin with. And if you don't have an API key, which you probably don't, you can create the key by pressing generate and it will do that for you. And then you have to press this button to activate it, which will change the status to active. Just a quick warning, when you do create a API key for the first time, it could take 2 hours or more for the process to go through. So if you get an error when we're working on the project later, just know that's most likely the issue. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just copy this API key and I'll remove this console.log. And let me go back to the app and I'll create a variable called API_key, add some quotation marks and just paste that in there. And I'm going to go back to OpenWeather API. We need to start making our requests. So I'll go to API and current weather data, go to the documentation, and you can see that you can make an API call with the latitude and longitude, but we don't need that. We need to do it by setting them. So I'm just going to scroll down and try and find that. Okay, built-in geocoding. Great. So we'll copy this and I'll go back to the app. And what we need to do is use the fetch API so that we can actually make this request. So I'll say fetch, add some quotation marks. Oops. And just paste that in there. Looks like I didn't add it properly. Okay, great. And instead of API key, I'm just going to remove that. What we need to do is actually use backticks so that we can add our variable to the URL. So backticks app ID will equal curly braces $ curly braces, and then we're going to put API key. And what we're going to do is for the city name, we're going to hard code London. All right. And I'll say .then, which will take a response and return response.json. And then I'll add another .then, which will take data. And I'm just going to console.log the data for now. Let me go back to the app and reload the page. You can see we get an object back with a bunch of data here. Get the name, main temperature, real fill, humidity. So if you actually look in the object and we go to main temperature, you can see that the number is quite large. That's because by default, OpenWeather API uses standard units. So if I go down here, units of measurement, standard, metric, and imperial units are available. If you don't use the units parameter, standard units will be applied by default. So what we need to do is, after the API key, we're going to say &units, and I'm just going to hard code in metric unit to start with, which is degrees Celsius. And if I go back to the app, reload the page, you can see that we now get the temperature in degrees Celsius. All right. So next thing I'm going to do is actually save the value here and the value here, so the units and the city, to a variable. So I add some comments. It says state. We'll say let current city, which by default will be London or whatever city you want to make it. And then I'll say let units, and by default it will be metric. So instead of hard coding in here, we're going to use $ curly braces units, and current city we'll put in here. Okay. Now, instead of console.log this data, let's start displaying this data. So what I'm going to do is, below the state, I'm going to get the selectors. Oh, sorry, get the HTML elements using selectors. So selectors, I'm going to say let city equals document dot query selector, and what we need to get is the city. So weather, okay, weather $_city. Okay. And so weather $_city. Here we're gonna say, we're gonna add some curly braces, and we'll say city.innerHTML. What that will equal to is data.name. So we'll add backticks, data.name. And we'll add another curly braces, and we'll say data.sys.country. Okay, and if you can see here, you have the country name, the country name and the city. So city name and country. All right. So here you can see that it returns the country code rather than the full country name. I don't want it to be like that. I want it so that instead of GB, it says Great Britain or United Kingdom or whatever. So what I'm going to do is actually create a function which will convert the country code to the full country name. So up here, I'll add some comments. Convert country code to name. So function convert country code, and I'm going to pass in country. All right. And what I'm going to do is create a variable called region names, make it equal to new intel.display names, which will take an array with a string value of English, so EN, and then I'll pass in an object with a type of region. And what I'm going to do is just return region names.of, and then I'll pass in country. All right. So what we can do is in here, I'll say convert country code, and then pass in data.sys.country. Now, if you see, we get the full country name, which is great. The next thing we're going to do is sort out the date and time. So I'll create a variable called date time up here. So let's select that, make it equal to document.query selector need to add quotation marks and the weather _date time. Okay, and then down here we'll say date time .inner HTML. Now with this, if I actually just remove this for now, just add some comments here, and I console.log this data, and I go to the console, right, you can see that it doesn't have that as the it doesn't have like the full date and time. What we get back is just a date and time Unix timestamp and the time zone. So what we need to do is use these two values to be able to return the date and time in this format that we've displayed here. So I'm going to have to create another function which will do that. It will convert the time zone and timestamp to the full country name. So above the convert country code, I'm going to create a function called convert timestamp, and it will take a timestamp and a time zone. And initially we're converting the seconds to hours, so I'll say convert time zone, and I'll make it equal to time zone divided by 3600. Let me add some comments here. So convert seconds to hours, and then I'll say const date equals new date timestamp times 1000 to get the date. And then I'll create an object, call it options, and the weekday will be long, so it will be displayed in a long format. The day will be numeric, month long, year numeric, hour numeric, minute also numeric, and the time zone, we're going to add some backticks, etc/GMT, $, curly braces, and we're going to say convert time zone greater than equal to 0. If that's the case, then we want to return this dash, else we're going to return plus, right? And then afterwards, we'll add another curly braces, math.abs convert time zone. And then after this, we're going to pass hour. So hour 12 will be true. Hour 12 true. Okay. And then we're going to return date.to locale string, pass in English US, so en-us, and then afterwards options, and then I'm going to take this function datetime.innerHTML will equal convert timestamp, and we're going to pass in data.dt and the time zone, so data.timezone. Okay, and data.datetime. What have we done here? Oh, I see the issue. Is I returned data.toLocale string when I should have returned date.toLocale string. All right, there we go. I think that should be right. Tuesday, March 14, 11:59. Let me check. Yeah, it's about right. Okay. Okay, that's good. Next, we're gonna do the weather forecast. So let weather forecast equals document.query selector weather forecast, and then here we're gonna say weather _forecast dot inner HTML will equal the image. So in fact, let's just copy all this and honestly, let's just remove all the values we've already put in place. So let's remove this. Let's remove this. Okay, and we'll remove that for now. Okay, so weather forecast dot inner HTML will equal backtick, so then we paste that image in there, and I'm not sure why that is doing that. Weather forecast. Oh, I think that's incorrect. Yeah, so not weather forecast, the weather icon. I don't know why I did that. My mistake. So weather forecast. I'll remove that. Okay, so weather forecast dot inner HTML will equal paragraph, and then I'll put data dot weather 0 dot main. Okay, so that is the main weather forecast. Let me go to the HTML and remove clear. Okay. All right. Next, we're gonna handle the temperature. So up here, weather _temperature. equal document.query selector, and then pass in weather double underscore temperature. Document.query selector, weather double underscore temperature. Okay, cool. And then say weather double underscore temperature dot inner HTML will equal data, so backticks, data dot main dot temp. Paste that, and afterwards we're gonna add the degree symbol, so ampersand hash 176. Okay, now it gives us the value in 2 decimal places, so we need to round that up to the nearest whole number, so we'll use 2 fix to do that. Oops, okay, 2 fix. Great. Next, let's get the weather icon, so let weather icon equal document.query selector weather double underscore icon, and then down here weather double underscore icon dot inner HTML. I'm gonna actually copy this right here. And let me remove this. Don't need that anymore. Okay. Just paste the image in there. Now instead of 10D, we're gonna pass in data dot weather 0 dot icon. Okay, so that we can get the appropriate icon from the request. And after this, we're going to tackle the minimum and maximum values. So let weather min max equals document.query selector weather double underscore min max weather double underscore min max dot inner HTML. Oops. Add paragraph. And we'll pass data dot main dot temp underscore min dot to fix. Great, and we'll add the degree symbol. So at ampersand hash 176. Okay, great. I'm just gonna copy this paragraph and paste another paragraph right next to it. And instead of min, I'll put max. And instead of temp min, I'll put temp max to get the maximum temperature, of course. So, okay, so minimum 5 degrees, maximum 8 degrees. Okay, great. We've got that sorted. Let's tackle the real field now. Weather double underscore real fill equals document dot query selector weather real fill. Okay, and then down here, weather double underscore real fill dot inner HTML will equal backticks data dot main dot feels like. So feels underscore like dot to fixed to the nearest whole number, and then I'm just gonna pass in ampersand #176 to get the degree symbol, which is great. We've got that. And let's do the last two, humidity and wind. So copy this, paste it 2 times below. Weather humidity. And weather wind. It's actually the last 3. We need to do pressure as well. So weather underscore wind. Paste it again. Weather underscore pressure. Document.weather underscore pressure. The query selector weather double underscore pressure, sorry. Okay. All right, let's go down here and weather double underscore humidity dot inner HTML will equal backticks data dot main, I think, yeah, with data dot main dot humidity the data dot main dot humidity, not weather double underscore humidity. Okay, and then afterwards I'm just gonna put a percentage symbol. The weather humidity dot HTML. Okay, cool. And then underneath that I'm just gonna copy this, paste that below. Weather wind data dot main dot data dot wind, yeah, data dot wind dot speed. That should give us the wind speed, and it's not a percentage, but rather it's meters per second. Okay, because that is the metric unit. And pressure, just gonna copy that, paste it below. Weather double underscore pressure dot inner HTML equals data dot main dot pressure. And the value is in HPA. Okay, so that's what we're working with so far. All right, so we have London, United Kingdom, we've got the date, we've got all the data. Let me just change the current country and see how it will work. So London, say Tokyo. Okay, we've got Tokyo, Japan, Tuesday at 9:18. Got all these values here. Great. Let me change it back to London. All right, so what we need to do next is make it so that we can search for a city and it will update the value here. So to do that, I'm going to actually create a function, well, not a function, but I'll get the document first. So I'll add some comments to say search, and I'll say document dot query selector and weather double underscore search dot add event listener. So we're gonna listen for a submit. So when we submit the form, if I go to index.html, when we submit this form, we want to get the value in the search bar and then update the variable with that value. So submit, which will take an event, and I'm going to say let search equals document.query selector weather double underscore search form, which will get that search form. And by default, when you submit forms, the page reloads. So we're going to remove that default action, or prevent that default action. So prevent default action. E.prevent default. And then we're going to change the current city in the state. So current city. So current city, I will make it equal to search.value. So what we search in. Then I'll say get weather forecast. And we're going to run get weather, so that we can display the data that we just changed. So it will rerun the get weather function with the state value changed. And let me test this out right here. Tokyo. Let me look at the console. It looks like we have an issue. Cannot read properties reading country. At 57. Convert country code data.sys country. Oh, don't know why this happened. search dot value is what should have typed. I don't know how that even happened, but anyways, Tokyo, there we go. We get the value. Miami, let's try that. Okay, the time, temperature, stuff like that. All right, cool. Let's try what should we try? We'll try Mexico City. All right. Let's try somewhere else. Try hot countries, Sahara. Okay. So that, yeah, that pretty much works. And the next thing we're going to do is let's sort out these units so that we can change the temperatures and the values from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So underneath here, I'll add some comments, units, and I'll say document.query selector, which will take weather underscore unit underscore Celsius, and I'll add an event listener to it, right? And I'll listen for a click, be an empty function, and I'll say if units is not equal to metric, then we want to change it to Celsius, or change to imperial. So unit will equal imperial, or units will equal imperial. And then we'll get the weather forecast. Get weather. Okay. And what I'm going to do is copy this and do the same for the opposite way. So Fahrenheit, add event listener, this is for a click. If current unit equals imperial, we're going to change to the metric system. So units will equal metric, and then we'll get the weather forecast with the values changed. Okay, and looks like we have an issue. Oh, the issue, I think in HTML, I put double underscore when I really shouldn't. It should just be the one underscore. I think it should be all right now. So let's search Tokyo. Okay, and I click on Fahrenheit. Should change the value to Fahrenheit. Let me check in the console again. Oh, I see where I went wrong. The logic is wrong. So we're not changing to imperial. We're saying units if not equal to metric, then we want to change it to metric. That's my fault, sorry. Units not equal to metric, we want to change it to metric. And here, if units is not equal to imperial, they want to change to imperial. Let me change the comments here. So change to imperial, change to metric. So Tokyo, change to, there we go. It changes the value. And again. All right. And as you can see, it also changes the wind value. So when you're using a metric system, it's meters per second. But when you're using imperial, we want it to be miles per hour. So down here, I'm going to say where we have the meters per second, I'm going to create $, and then inside of here, I'll say units equals imperial. If that's the case, then we want miles per hour. Else, we want meters per second. And I'll remove this here. So meters per second, and issue here again. Oh, let me end the. Okay, let me end the backticks, which I just done. That should be good. Now, if I change to Fahrenheit, 9.22 miles per hour, sorry, and then 4.12 meters per second. Okay, great. So we have that done. Let me try this again. Tokyo. All right, when I submit the form, I want the form to clear. So let's go and sort that out. So after the search value, after get weather, clear form, search, dot value will equal just the empty string. So we'll type in Tokyo, there we go. Change to Fahrenheit, there we go. Okay. I think that should be it. If I didn't miss anything. Yeah, that should be it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.